introduce a couple of wispy little clouds across there and blend out the bottom here. And that gives us some basic cloud shapes. What you could do if you wanted to is just introduce a little bit of blue into the bottom of those clouds, just to create some shadows just in there, like so. Just into the bottoms there, like that. And that just introduces a bit of a shadowy effect on the bottom of those clouds. Okay, so next thing we want to do is just introduce some mountains, some gentle mountains rolling in the background here. So what I'm going to do is just introduce a little bit of alizarin crimson and mix that with the ultramarine blue to create a nice purpley mauve colour. I'll go back to this 1-inch brush here. It's already got the blue on there, so I'll just grab a little bit of the alizarin crimson here. That's a bit of a runny one, and we don't want too much. Just mix that in with the blue there. You can see it's gone quite purple there. So grab some more of the ultramarine blue, mix that in, make it a bit bluer. Okay, it's actually quite purple. Now, because this is going to be a distant mountain, we don't want to have too much detail on it. We're going to put it in the distance by just introducing some white into that mix. Okay. Mountains, you know, as they appear in the distance, are affected by the atmosphere, so you're going to find that they're going to be a little bit sort of whiter than they'll be when they're up close to you. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just drop in tops of a mountain there, and coming down, just blend that in. And it doesn't really matter which direction the mountain goes in and so on. Just fade that off into the horizon like so. Okay, so it is a very distant mountain. You can just grab a little bit more of the white and the blue and just... Okay. Might be actually a bit hard for you to see it on the screen there. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see that a bit closer. Okay. So you can see the tops of the mountain line there. Okay. Again, this is very distant mountains that we're producing, so we don't want them too prominent. Then with a dry brush, clean dry brush that is, we just go in here and clean off this brush. Okay, what we want to do is we want to create a sort of a misty effect in the bottom here, so we just tap out the bottom like so of this mountain. Tap it out, and then just with gentle light strokes just brush that through there like that. That creates a bit of a hazy sort of effect on the bottom of this mountain, which is what we want. Again, just blend that out. Gives us a nice sort of hazy effect along the bottom of that mountain there. Okay. Now, because that one's set back in the distance a bit, we want to introduce a closer mountain, which we might just bring up through this range here. We'll bring this one more into the foreground so that it's more prominent. So we'll get more of the ultramarine blue and less white this time. So a bit more of the alizarin crimson, more of the ultramarine blue. Okay, so I've just loaded that up onto the brush there. You can see that on the end there of the brush. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this mountain from the left hand side here and bring it across the mountain we've just done, and you can see immediately that that sets the other mountain in the background. This one's, because of the nature of the colour of it and so on, it's a more dominant colour, and so it immediately brings this mountain into the foreground, pushes the other one back into the distance there. Okay, so what we've done, we've just created some gentle rolling hills. This is really setting the scene more than anything. Okay, it's just the background. Don't want too much detail on those. I want to keep it a little bit misty looking. And we'll just blend out the bottom of that one there. And again, with our clean and dry 2-inch brush, just dry that off. What we'll do is we'll just tap out the bottom of this one here. Tap it out, create that misty effect all the way across. Okay, dry it off again, and then just very gently just blend that across there, so we've got a nice hazy misty effect on the bottom of that mountain as well. So you can see here, this one's set in the background, this one's more dominant in the foreground, but they're both still really background mountains that we've created. What we're going to do is we're going to put a little cottage here, big tree here in the foreground, little path leading up to the cottage. So we're going to need some background trees along this line here, and maybe some up in the valley there of this mountain. So to do that, we're going to need ultramarine blue and now our yellows. So what I would use is cadmium yellow. I'll introduce some cadmium yellow to the palette, and also some yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is a great colour to create, foliage mixed with ultramarine blue, especially in the Australian landscape sort of settings. Put those on the palette, and what I might do is introduce number 6 round brush. And see, it's got quite a sort of bristly end to it there. That's because we're going to use it to really create the foliage by sort of dabbing it onto the palette. So just think a little bit more ultramarine blue. Where's that ultramarine blue gone? There he is. Put a bit more of that on there. And a bit more titanium white. Now these are going to just be background trees that we're going to create here. They're not going to really do much more than set the scene in the background. So what we'll do is we'll take this ultramarine blue here, just mix it out into this area here. Okay, and I'm just going to take a little bit of the yellow ochre, just a touch, mix that in. Okay, notice it's gone a little bit green, but not too green, which is what we want. A bit of the titanium white, and I'll mix that in as well. Okay, probably a little bit too much titanium white there. Let me just mix it up, and so here we go. Need a little bit more ultramarine blue. Okay, and that's just about right there. So this is going to be used for our distant sort of trees. And the way we do that is we just dab the brush there into the paint. Okay, and now we need to think about where are these trees going to go. So, we're probably going to have a line of little trees running across the bottom of this mountain. So you can just create those just simply by just dabbing them on, create different shapes and patterns. Okay, just dabbing away. Again, these are distant sort of trees. Just roll a brush for some different effects. Bring a couple up over that line there, the separating line between the two hills. Okay, and a couple there. Now run a big one up in the corner there. Okay, now they're fairly light colours against the light colour of the two mountains, and the reason why we've done it that way is because these are really distant trees. You're not going to see a lot of detail on them, but if you want, you can mix up a little bit more ultramarine blue, take just a touch of the cadmium yellow. This gives us a brighter green, and then over the top of some of the, just the tops, not everywhere, but just introduce some of the highlight green over the top there. But again, this is very distant, so we're not going to see a lot of detail here at all. And because we've really gone for that sort of hazy look, there's not going to be much that you would see from this sort of distance. But it just gives you a little impression now of some treetops, particularly in an Australian sort of setting or scene, where you're going to have, rows of gum trees around the bottom of hills and things like that. Now with the paint that you got left, I would just mix that up and just get a good amount of it here. And what I'd do is I'd just go and create a base here of under the tree line. This is going to be sort of like a start of a field, I guess. You can just draw that in.